Believe it or not, when this movie actually released its first trailer, I was more excited to see this than I was Age of Ultron. I'm only going to do one video on this movie, so be warned, we're going to talk about some spoilers. We're going to talk about the whole Josh Trank Fox situation, and overall I'm going to tell you what I thought of Fantastic Four. Okay, so the reboot of Fantastic Four, is it as bad as people say it is? Well, kind of. Personally, I'm kind of on the fence to say it's not as bad, but I think that's only because I've come out of the movie fresh. In the beginning, a young
Reed Richards and Ben Grimm perfect intergalactic travel.
About 7 years later, Dr.
Storm and his daughter Sue
discover that Richards and Grimm have perfected an experiment that they too have been running, and they bring them on board to help further their research. Research that was started by none other than
Victor Von Doom,
a programmer of sorts that only couldn't perfect bringing things back from the negative zone. So now Victor, Sue and Reed are working together to perfect sending people to the negative zone.
Johnny Storm is a hothead street racer
whose father forces him to come work with him after a run-in with the law.
Johnny and Reed become pals,
and they learn that they will gain no credit from their research, and like many scientists before, people walked on the moon and such like that. I thought that was cool how they threw those facts in there. They discover that NASA will be sending astronauts to the negative zone. So Reed, Victor and Johnny are all like, nah, that, we're going tonight. Reed contacts Ben, telling him to come along.
They get to the negative zone and
discover this energy that upon Victor touching it causes them all to make a fast abort back to the shuttles. This is where the movie gets intense. Victor falls off a cliff, becoming engulfed in this energy, which later we learn bonds him with the suit, making him Dr. Doom. Ben can't close the door of his pod and all the rocks are tumbling in. Fire consumes Johnny. All that didn't make sense was how did Reed be able to stretch? Seriously, through him being teleported, did his body matter just get stretched out of place? If it did, we didn't see it, and I don't see why he didn't just return in one piece. Where the fear comes in though is Ben Grimm. It's really frightening how we see him after they get back. And this is where you can really see that the writing was influenced by that Jeff Goldblum classic, The Fly. How they get back is that Sue's on the other side desperately trying to get them back via the computer. And somehow when she gets hit with the energy, she's able to turn invisible. I bought that for the most part, but I can see where people have trouble understanding it. But like the rest of the movie, it's never really explained that much. The government now have control of them and are running tests on them to see how they perform with these new powers. Reed escapes though, and like in typical Bruce Banner the Hulk manner, he hides out in a cabin for a year trying to develop a cure. Honestly though, what was he doing for a year and wasn't able to build it? Seriously, he was gathering all these scraps for a year and he couldn't actually put the thing together. Not long before he escapes, he stumbles across Ben Grimm. You see Ben almost emerge from the rubble and he's screaming, asking for help. He wants help, he can't see what's happened to him, he can't move. He's probably feeling pain and he looks up at his arm and he sees this whole rock figure. I really don't like images like that when people see things missing or things morphed. It really makes me feel uneasy, but that's where it added tension and fear for me. I thought it was well executed how they showed the powers coming over them. And this is the most frightening origin story I've ever seen up until this point. I really liked Reggie,
Kathy, Miles Teller and Michael B. Jordan.
Now, let's talk about the rest of the movie. Or as I like to call it, the most rushed third act of a movie ever. Simply put in bullet points, Ben has become a tool for the military. He's become a killing machine. They're counting how many kills he's done in the field. Sue and Johnny are also part of field tests, but they don't go out anywhere of this grim base that they're all kept in. That's two problems with the movie for me. Number one, the marketing of the movie. As you can see, you see a city, you see meteors falling, buildings on fire. Not once do they ever leave that military base. There are several scenes that were in the trailers that were taken out. We never see Ben Grimm jump from the plane. We never see him land and get engulfed in all that fire. We don't see these things. It is clear where there have been editing issues, but we'll get to that later. For the moment, let's talk about them being field tests. It's clear that the government are lying to them and will never let them leave. I mean, hell, even Johnny can fly out of the airbase. Why doesn't he just leave? You can see where they wanted to touch on characters' emotions to making them feel important staying there. Trying to keep them safe, giving them a purpose in life. Making them feel that there's something more for them and that one day they might get out. But really, it's executed silly. Continuing on, Reed is eventually captured and NASA now use him as a way to fix the machine that they can send their astronauts to the negative zone. The editing is choppy and there are consistent errors throughout of the movie, where you can clearly see that the reshoots came in months after filming had finished, and then you've got all these errors such as people's facial hair suddenly disappearing. You've got Sue Storm's hair changing from a part to something else and the colours changing. To me, it didn't really stand out that much. I don't really think I paid her much attention, considering that they barely use her in this movie. The Invisible Woman is the most bland interpretation of her we have ever seen. There's no real chemistry until the very end of the movie, and even then it's very faint. There's no real chemistry between her and Reed Richards. Jessica Alba actually played a role throughout the whole of the movie. She was close to Victor Von Doom, and we could see that clearly. In this movie, it's just hinted at. Honestly, and the CGI of the Invisible Woman at times made her seem shorter than she actually was. The CGI in this movie doesn't always stand out that bright and bold either for the most of it. The Thing is where you can see all the budget went. And even then, there are times of him walking down a corridor where he looks awful. Honestly, the field test footage of when Johnny's flying alongside the plane in the trailer, it's over so quickly in the trailer. In this movie, you can see that field plane that he has to take out flying alongside him. Now, I know that it is a test plane made by the military, but you cannot tell me that a test plane doesn't look like a real plane. That looked like two completely different shots put together and just this big explosion and the plane disappeared. It's only right that there are issues with Johnny and Sue throughout the whole of the movie. Let's address the elephant in the room for a second. She is adopted and Johnny doesn't feel that connected to her. His father is more in contact with her than he is his own son. And they don't really address the reasons why this is so. We're left to make our own story up in our minds as we sit through the movie, hoping that they'll eventually come across something. And in the end of the movie, they're just all together. We never really see a character development. This doesn't feel like a big family that can work together. This feels like four people brought in off the street for a quick photo shoot. And the character development. Lord, the very end of this movie is where you can see the writers woke up for a second and thought, whoa, everybody, we're making Fantastic Four, we got to put the characters in somehow. But sir, we've been making this movie for the last few months, how do we do that now? I don't know, have them on a balcony trying to talk about how they're going to come up with their name. There's four of them, so let them throw in some gimmicks here and there. Make Sue look at Reed in a way that makes her think, ooh, I like this guy. And then have Ben and Johnny have some banter back and forth, which ultimately feels like bullying. The last thing we saw of Ben Grimm was that he was saying to Reed, you can't fix this, and he was clearly emotionally distraught about his appearance. So when you see Johnny make a comment that, oh, you're the thing that nobody wanted, it's just rude. It's not funny. It wouldn't make any of the audience laugh. At that point, it's like, whoa, dude, like, you're a jerk. Which brings me on to a review coming out later this week about a movie I saw called The Gift, where if that was Johnny and Ben, The Gift may have been a better Fantastic Four movie for them. Though never earns the title Doctor Doom.
Doctor Doom was a force to be reckoned with. He was walking down the hallway and soldiers' heads were just exploding.
In fact, sit through the movie if you do go to see it, to at least see how that slimy, gum-chewing jerk of a man gets killed by Victor Von Doom. I assure you, you would at least like that scene. But that's the trouble with the end of this movie. The stakes are high, but you don't feel that they are that high. Von Doom is brought back from the negative zone, and he hates that humanity are now going to try and take over the negative zone, which somehow has become his perfect world. We understand he's been out there for a year, somehow survived. Who knows what he came across? I mean, when we see him, he's just wandering through this deserted wasteland. Really, where have you been? What have you done? And you say that you was wondering when the military were going to come back to the negative zone. Some people have gotten confused by this, but I've taken it on board to say that he was expecting humanity to show up to screw everything up. I mean, really, in the end of it, he's just a lonely, depressed little man who wanted his own private space. That's why when we first see him in the movie, he's in this confined room with all these fancy locks. Victor Von Doom had potential, had the rest of this movie set up in the beginning. But the climax of this movie is underwhelming. It's not fantastic, and by the end of the film, I just felt upset. Josh Trank, 24 hours before the release of the movie. Josh Trank, the director, for those that don't know. He took to Twitter saying that a year ago he had a perfect version of this movie. It would have received great reviews, and it's a shame that you will never see it. Now that raises two questions with me. Number one, he used the word version to say that the movie was practically done. Before the reshoots came into play and Fox said, no, we don't like this, we want to move this here, he had the movie finalised. Why would you interrupt the man in the middle of making his movie and rearranging everything? I understand that it is Fox Studios' movie. However, they hired the man to direct the movie. They agreed on a vision for the movie. All he had to do was deliver that movie. As we have seen in Chronicle, he can deliver a really good superhero origin movie. He made one of the best found footage movies of our time in an era where found footage is overly used. Let the man do his job. He shouldn't have taken to Twitter. That was stupid and irresponsible of him. For now, he's probably going to get in tons of trouble. And who knows what studio will work with him, knowing that he'll talk bad about them like that. I'm on his side. I do think that he is the victim in all of this. However, there are rumours that he has come on set drunk and he was rude to the cast and such. But I was neither there, so I can't confirm or deny it. In the end, I did adore the most of this movie. I really liked the origin of the first hour. It's just such a shame. The movie ends so quickly. Now, the time running is 1 hour and 40 minutes. It goes by so quickly that you know you're enjoying yourself. Or at least enough to say that you are interested in seeing where the movie is going. However, when the credits roll and your girlfriend turns to you and says to you, "Is that it?" confirms that the third act is rushed. And the stakes they were going for, again, were not high enough. That's how you know you saw an 1 hour and 40 minutes long trailer to a movie that never happens. There were 3 main action set pieces that Josh Trank had set up for this movie, and they are not present in the movie at any time. Who's to say whether or not Trank's version of the movie would have been any better? At least if it had the tone of the beginning of the movie and followed that throughout, grew the characters together, we could see that banter happening, we could see Ben Grimm evolve, we found out where Reed went for a year. Maybe see a little more of Doom, evolve him a little as well. Don't just kill him off in the end like that and then roll the credits. Johnny and Sue's dad gets killed by Von Doom. And not once when they get back do they ever grieve his death, or do we ever hear any mention of it. They straight away go into talking about business as to where they're going to hold themselves. Which means that Fox are ultimately setting up for yet another Fantastic Four movie. But you haven't even made a solid first movie. I have to say, after a lot of thought and consideration, raising and lowering my final score of this, which is completely irrelevant. This is a movie you can't necessarily put a number on. If I was to be honest, I would give it a 6 for myself and say that I could put it on and enjoy it better than most average movies. 5 being average, it's slightly better. But that's only because it's a comic book movie. In terms of being an actual movie, it falls about average. But then when you get into the grim little details of how messed up the movie is and the plot line, you have to lower it even more. It's sad to say that I'm going to end this review with a movie I was highly anticipating for the whole year. I'm giving Fantastic Four a 4 out of 10. Guys, what do you think about this whole situation? Do you think Josh Trank is at fault? Do you think Fox is at fault? Are you even going to see the movie? Because I know the box office results for this film are low under par. Let's talk about it in the comments below. Like this video, share it with the world, and subscribe for more. I'll see you next time on GingerClips.